Today's episode is brought to you by the Vegas Beer Guys. The Everything Sequel podcast contains explicit language. 'Cause we learned it from you, Dad. Joining me, the man who wants to throw me through the air with his mind, Tom Stewart of Lonesome Whistle Productions. Give him a little something, Tom.
So strange to get hit by a truck on a deserted highway. The horror may be elevated, but the dialogue is not.
Nope.
It really struck me watching rewatching the Omen movies in the wake of, I guess, a wave of elevated horror films.
Uh-huh.
And these are elevated horror films, but not in terms of, complex themes and ideas and artfulness, but just production, right? So it's like we get the best cast we can,
Sure,
highest production values we can. At least like the very first film is like that, and then these like 2, 3, and 4, this is just kind of diminishing. They're getting progressively cheaper and cheaper, and at the very end,
until they're on TV.
What appears to be a Canadian made-for-TV movie, yeah.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. We're going to talk the Omen series.
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited.
The Omen trilogy +1.
+1. The one that came so much later.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it when you have a series where, every 2 to 3 years you're getting a movie, and then somewhere 10 to 15 years later, after the last one, there's one more.
Yeah, and the people who package the DVDs must be really? We have to put this
Right.
on? It's like, yeah, I mean, it's called The Omen. People are gonna want to have it on the box set. It's like, but really? It's a lot of work. Also, I mean, what I thought you were gonna say was, it's always interesting to have that film that is called The Final.
Yeah,
something,
right. Yes.
And it not be the final.
And have
one.
it not be the final.
And it's so funny, having talked about sequels for so long now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm completely jaded about that now. So I see final and I'm like, well, that doesn't mean anything.
Well, you're
to
full
me.
of shit.
Yeah.
Fucking liar.
But I was watching this when my parents were, I was trying to sort of watch these movies when my parents were here for Christmas, and they walked past the screen and it had it, displayed on the HBO Max, The Final Conflict, and they were like, "Oh, last one, eh?" And I was like, "Oh no." They were like, "What do you?" And they couldn't sequel novices that they are. Sequel novices that they are. They had no understanding that the word "final" means anything but final.
Yeah, right.
No, there's one more after this, but how could it be?
It says
This is
the final conflict.
It's like what you see on the screen is a lie. In fact, that's a red flag that it's not going to be the last one.
Right. Nobody ever makes good on that fucking promise.
No.
Even Final Destinations.
It's almost like a Trojan horse for a future director
right.
to go. To be like, well, they said final, so they must want me to make another one.
Yeah, right? We gotta have a really good reason to come back. And then they never have a good reason to come back.
That sounds like I'm joking until you find out that director is Dominic Othenin-Girard, director of Halloween 5.
Halloween 5. I'm very excited to talk about that. Two of these movies start with one director but end with another one.
And the original, we'll talk about it in more detail, but the original director of Damien Omen 2 was Mike Hodges.
Yeah.
Who not that my parents died over Christmas. I was going to say also, the Christmas is the connection, not death.
Original Get Carter.
Yeah, it died over Christmas time.
Which is to say nothing of the fact of Flash Gordon.
Flash Gordon, yeah.
Come on. You listening, Lady Chu?
I have a lot to say about that.
That specifically, or that movie?
Well, no, it feels like there's a section of the movie that he definitely directed.
Okay.
knowing Mike Hodges' work. But the other director of the movie is someone we're also familiar with.
Don Taylor.
Yeah. Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
And Magnum Force.
Yep. The Final Countdown, too.
So will he complete this trilogy of great sequels? Find out on the next episode.
That's what we're here to do. We got to rank and declare on these movies, man.
Oh, I guess you'll find out from what we say here. Yeah. Never mind. You'll find out now. Trying to create some suspense here.
Stop trying to pitch suspense.
That's the weirdest heckle
We're here
ever.
to give them the answer right now
Stop
today.
trying to pitch suspense!
That sounded very Abe. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, man. Well, here we are. Another series. We're dipping back into the horror well, and we're talking classic. I got a huge surprise for you.
Oh, you hadn't seen these films?
Not a single one.
That's great. Wow,
Yeah.
this was the. It's really funny because there's so much crossover with the Planet of the Apes series, and you said exactly the same thing.
Yeah, right.
In Planet of the Apes, it's fascinating to me that there's whole swathes of filmmaking that somehow you haven't seen.
That got past me.
And what you do on a daily basis. But that's great. I'm really happy. I mean, I used to have the Omen box set, so I feel like I've watched at least a couple of these to death.
Oh, wow. So, I mean, were you a big fan really as a younger person or something?
Sorry?
Were you a huge fan as a younger person, or did this box set just end up in the house and it happened to be there, so you watched it a lot?
B.
Okay.
Yeah, it was my old college roommate who he was a man of very select tastes, but one of them was the Omen. And he had the box set in, so we marathoned it at least once, and I watched a few of them individually over the years I was there.
Interesting.
Obviously starting with the first film, unlike
yes, right,
like what we're doing here, because who would not?
Okay.
Who would be like, you know what? I'm going to skip till after Gregory Peck is dead.
Yeah, that's the place to pick up.
That's when it really gets going.
When Gregory Peck is gone and dead, that's where we start watching.
Yeah. So definitely attached to these films, although I don't know what I think about them in a critical sense.
Okay, now that's interesting to me because off mic a couple of times we've been doing some other stuff, or somehow the Omen series came up.
Yeah.
And I could see eyes get wide and maybe a shake of the head that made me think, I don't know, that you had definitive thoughts about these movies.
Well, at least for our purposes, I thought this was another really important series because I mean, just from where it stands in history, I think it's got to be a formative series. You know, any franchise that is from the late 70s and early 80s is still sequeldom in its infancy.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting to look at from that perspective. But there's things that this series does that sequels have the potential to do, but most of them don't capitalize on. Mm-hmm. Chief among them, having a character age throughout the movies.
Yeah.
Why don't sequels do this all the time?
That's my question. I was going to ask you the same exact thing. I couldn't believe.
It's such a good use
I mean, I
of the
knew.
medium.
Yeah, I knew from just the boxes. Because over the years.
Now you sound like Chew. I knew it from the boxes.
I should have said posters. Yeah. But I mean, I just It's funny because even if we're dealing with movies that I haven't seen, I'll know something about them. I can intimate. Yeah. I knew that 2, we were dealing with a teenager, or maybe just under. I don't know if he's 10 or something, but
I think he's a teenager. Yeah, he's definitely. Well, the guy playing him is definitely a teenager.
Yeah, that's true. And I knew that in the third one,
and British.
I knew in the third one that he'd be an adult and Sam Neill would be involved.
Well, more than involved, he would be Sam Neill.
Yes.
I don't think that's a spoiler to tell you that Damien is Sam Neill.
He's right on the fucking poster.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I suppose, there's the black sheep of the family is Omen 4, which is a reset, essentially.
Yeah. I think it was a reset with a hope of going further that went nowhere.
And that film has always fascinated me.
Oh, I'm glad, because I was fascinated by it.
Because it refuses to acknowledge it's a sequel until the final few minutes of the film. Right. The fact that it is a sequel is the plot twist of the film. And when you add Eveything Gerard and all his chicanery into it, it is some objet d'art, that is for sure. So, for different reasons, I'm interested in all of these movies, but when you break them down, there's some serious problems too.
Sure.
Some more than others, but all of them have some kind of tragic flaw, I think.
Okay.
That makes them sadly not quite stand up to the original Omen.
Tall order, I guess.
Yeah.
For the purposes of this, though, I rewatched The Omen. And I remember thinking that movie, even in and of itself, I don't think it really gets going until the third act in earnest. It doesn't... Themes don't become interesting.
Well, that's certainly not true with any of these films. They're all straight in.
Yeah.
In media res, if you will.
But it took me a while rewatching it to kind of warm up to it. I thought, why aren't we seeing this? Why aren't we doing this? And then we started seeing or doing those things towards the last third of the movie. But I'll say this too. I think the reason I never watched the sequels, I never really thought of The Omen as too scary a movie. It never really, and I don't mean too as in like, oh, you can't watch it. I mean, every time I watch it, even when I was a little kid, I was never that scared.
Well, I mean, that's the elevated part, isn't it? It was a self-consciously refined horror film.
Yeah.
With only like a handful of moments that of kind of body horror that were really more about just the execution of like, look how great that fake head is, and it wasn't even registering on the level of horror. I imagine some people are quite sniffy about it, but I think it's very atmospheric.
Yeah, I'll give you that. But what's funny is I say that, but
it's way more of a horror film than any of these.
No, yeah, it is.
These are not horror movies.
And rewatching it stuck with me.
One of them's like a detective noir for about a third of
it. Well, here's the other thing about these movies, that even the filmmakers of the movies felt like they had to contend with. The first movie, even though we chopped that head off, they thought, how do you make a child scary? And then the makers of the second movie said, how do you make a teenager scary?
You send him to military school.
There you go.
Makes sense to me. Scariest place on earth.
How do you make an adult scary? Have him be the CEO of a corporation. That's frightening. We didn't think that
Yeah,
at the time.
yeah, that's true. And
In
and
1981, we were loving CEOs then.
yeah, the worst possible time for that
Yeah.
storyline to take place.
Right.
People would be like, "What's the big deal?" Yeah, and further to your point, these films are very evidently upping the ante on the the head moment. It's like, how can we keep building on this one idea and go nuts with it?
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting because that's they're not defining themselves as particularly different from the Omen in the sense of the story, the characters, the themes, and it is one ongoing story as well.
It is, and that actually really surprised me that there's a through
It's
line
a huge thing, right?
for at least two of these sequels.
Yeah, but it's about how do you up the ante every time?
Yeah,
which is a kind of different understanding of sequels than what we're necessarily used to. I think there's not a ton of inversions here.
Right.
It's like let's build on what we have and just to the nth degree. To the point, I mean, that one of the fascinating things about Damien Omen 2 is it's not really a horror film; it's more of a disaster film.
That's interesting.
And I think part of that is like, how do we keep escalating this one moment from the Omen that everyone talks about, of the head being cut off by the plane of glass.
The plate glass, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's certainly, you see the one-upmanship.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. There's a lot.
Yeah.
There's just more of it for one.
Right.
And everything is much higher stakes than that.
Yeah.
Throughout. And that's what the kind of series becomes until it becomes effectively a remake of The Omen, which is sort of a different way of approaching the same problem.
Sure. All right. Well, you and I were both just talking off air saying, I'm not even sure where I stand right now on a lot of these questions because we have to rank and declare.
Yeah.
Are you back and forth on both or just one?
What do you mean both?
Like, I mean, ranking and
All
declaring.
three? Oh, I see. I thought it was like...
Sorry, I meant that, not
you
the
know
movies.
that there's an Omen 4, right? I was like, there's an Omen 4. It's like, I had a sudden sense then that you'd been humouring me this whole time. Keep talking about this Omen 4. It must only exist in his mind. It's like, we're not at pitch a sequel yet, Tom. Yeah, more good and bad.
Okay.
I think I'm clear on ranking. I don't think I'm clear on good or bad. For at least one of these films.
All right.
What about you? Both?
Yeah.
You just don't know what to do. You can kind of... You can rationalize it up to the end of the final conflict. Which, by the way, is another classic... takes away. It's not called Omen. They've done with the Omen at that point. It's just called the final conflict.
Yeah, right.
Which is something we see a lot.
But then they put the Omen back in.
I guess but I've not seen it anywhere except on HBO Max.
Oh, really? I thought even back then with like video release, they said this isn't working. We got to put Omen 3 on it.
Probably, but not within the film itself. It just says the final conflict.
Correct, yeah. It came out as just the final conflict.
But 4 really fucks with your mind because then you're like, well, what am I evaluating? A trilogy and a hanger-on? I mean, what do you do with that?
Yeah.
2 parts of a trilogy and a hanger-on. I mean, it couldn't get more fragmented, really, could it?
Let me put it this way. I think I have more affection for these movies than I ever thought I would.
Yeah.
And
They're very cozy, which I think was part of the appeal of the original Omen as well. I think there's a coziness about it.
Doesn't that seem strikingly at odds with the subject matter, though?
No, because there's a lot of fire. It's warm. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people in overcoats and hats,
scarves.
At one point, I watched this over Christmas, and I was not oblivious to the irony of watching a film about the Antichrist at Christmas. But in a way, it's sort of like it's a great alternative Christmas film. If you're like me, you're not particularly religious, so why not?
Yeah, go nuts.
Still talking about Christ, just approaching it from a different angle.
From a different side. Well, so that was the other thing that, excluding 4...
which you cannot do.
No, right. But for original trilogy, I thought it was really interesting, the role of religion in these movies. And how, balls to the wall by the time you get to 3.
Yeah. Well,
he's making speeches.
The first 2 Omen films, and crucially not the third one. Sorry, the first 2 Omen sequels, and crucially not the third one, are set in a world where there is no contradiction between faith and science.
Right.
They're 2 sides of the same coin, which is a religious fantasy, right? And it makes sense in storytelling terms because, if those 2 things are constantly at odds, you've got to contend with that as well as the story of Christ versus the devil, which is already, that's your opposition. You don't need another opposition between faith and science. Those need to work together in your story to get us from A to B. But I'm endlessly fascinated by the leaps that the final 2 parts of the trilogy take into, as you say, like balls to the wall religious fantasy, and space fiction.
Space fiction. That's great.
And as if those two ideas are the same thing. You know what I mean? It's like like those weird episodes of Star Trek: The Original Series that are kind of like religious allegories, but Gene Roddenberry can't admit that he believes he believes in this stuff. It's like except there's no tension. It's just like this is the fictional world we're in,
right?
Where these 2 things coexist. Everyone believes simultaneously in science and Christ and the devil.
Right, yeah.
No one is surprised that the devil is born into an American family in the late 1970s.
Yeah, it's never questioned.
No. Particularly not by the people who work for Damien.
Yeah, exactly. They seem so on board.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that movie.
What, the story of Damien's personal assistant?
Yeah.
That's pretty much is the third movie.
I guess you're right.
I guess they throw in the curveball of the second coming being born to his wife.
Right.
Which is a third act turn we didn't necessarily see coming. That movie's bonkers.
I know, but I think I'm so on board for it.
It definitely has a lot. It has a lot to recommend it.
Oh man,
it really does. And I will say overall before we break it down, that each of these films has something to recommend it.
Yeah, I think so too.
Which we don't,
I'm really wrestling with how far I might recommend.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, let's do it. We can't prevaricate no more.
Agreed. What do you want to do first?
Well, I can rank easier than I can do good or bad, so...
All right, let's rank.
Okay.
What do you think is the best Omen sequel.
I think, all things being equal, Damien Omen 2.
Okay. Is it close?
I didn't realize I did a sequel pun there. That's how far gone I am. I said all things being sequel. I didn't even know I was doing it.
It's amazing that I let it just go right by.
Well, you're. I mean, if anyone was going to miss it,
It was me.
it would be you, because of the world we both live in. Just the two of us.
Oh shit!
I tell you, if you might want to skip these ranking and pitch episodes. Some of the best moments on this podcast happen on these episodes.
I know, right?
And I know it's you. You think I don't need to hear two middle-aged white men talk about which Omen movies they like. There's something about this format makes us do crazy things.
Yeah.
Say some weird shit.
Oh, Tom, I'm really struggling on my top two.
Well, I know which one it's not.
Yeah.
Because I've talked to him about I've talked to you about one of his other films, so I know where you stand on one of these directors.
Oh, I don't care.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, this is even more interesting than I thought.
I'm not holding prejudices against directors.
You should.
I don't subscribe to the
inept,
Tom. I don't subscribe to the Tom Stewart.
He couldn't direct Traffic.
God damn it.
Yeah, you're right. You that's true. You hold less grudges than I do. I mean, that's
Yeah.
fewer grudges.
You're always talking about somebody you fucking hate.
Tonight on Grudge Match.
But in this particular case, you're right.
Oh yeah, I can't put up as convincing a defense of Omen 4 as I can of Halloween 5, and that's saying something.
But having said that, I'm going to stick up for Omen 4, I think, more than maybe anybody else possibly could or would or should.
Once again, except me.
You think?
Like I say, each of these films has something significant to recommend them.
Okay. Now here's the thing. I want to agree with you.
No, Alec Baldwin's not doing that podcast anymore.
He's not doing anything except his defense. There is a part of me that says that the answer is obvious.
Yeah.
And that it must be Damien Omen 2, the strongest movie in this bunch. But I gotta tell you,
Yeah.
I thought there was a magic potion going on within Omen 3, which is not really part of its title, The Final Conflict,
Yeah.
that I was eating like it was fucking candy.
Yeah.
And you kind of spoke to it, you know, the assistant who just had the child. I couldn't, I thought it was remarkable that we're still dealing with these knives and the monks or the priests that are still after them. We're like, we still have the through line.
Yeah.
I mean, it got
The heavenly dozen, as I call them.
Yeah, exactly. It got so crazy religious.
Yep.
I got to the end of that movie and I was delighted by everything. And
you were along for the ride.
Yeah, I was along for the ride, and in a movie that's called The Final Conflict, something happens where I said, well, that's not final. That's not final at
Mhm.
all what just happened there. That leads to another movie. And then I couldn't really tell if Omen 4 picked up on that or not. Do they ever tell us?
Neither can Omen 4. It decides, as I said, in the last scene of the film that
All
it's
right.
a sequel.
So I am going to say The Final Conflict is at the top of my list.
Well, it's next for me, and...
But again, it's one of those razor-thin situations, because obviously
I wouldn't necessarily...
Damien Omen 2 is the next on my list.
I don't know if I think it's razor thin.
It is for me.
I know for you, yeah. Well, I'm just, I'm trying to quantify it for myself.
Yeah.
Because to me, Damien Omen 2 belongs to the same project as the Omen. Which is, what are we talking about at the very beginning of this episode? That kind of elevated horror.
Okay. Yeah, that's the thing that I really like about that movie.
Final Conflict is kind of abandoned that principle.
I know, that's what I kind of like about it, though.
Yeah, no, and that's what I think. They're both rich in their own ways.
Yeah.
Omen
but 2,
I think
Damien Omen 2 feels like it still has the DNA of the Omen. The Final Conflict...
I think it ticks more... To me, it ticks more boxes. Like, it does the classic sequel upping the ante.
Yeah.
It's the first film of, like... It invents the idea of keeping Damien's life story going as a way to promulgate sequels. The cast is out of this world. Good. I mean, that's the point, right? Sometimes it feels like you feel like you're like a dum-dum for saying that, but I'm like, no, there really is a scene with William Holden and Sylvia Sidney arguing over a dinner table. It's like last gasp Hollywood, before all these people die. Hate to say it.
Yeah, right.
You've
Spoiler
got Leo McKern and Lee Hendry doing cameos, and
sure.
I don't think they were meant to be cameos, but Mike Hodges left, so they ended up as cameos.
Yeah. I mean, Lance Hendrickson's in this movie.
Right, and it's just phenomenal. The production values are still right up there. I think it's really well written. I think it's a really strong screenplay if you think about what they do in the amount of time that they have. It's really quite impressive. So
I can't disagree with any of that.
Yeah.
And I think for me, what it is more than anything else, you kind of talked about, and you're right. I mean, obviously, you have to give Omen 2, you have to give Damien Omen 2 the credit for what it chooses to do with Damien itself and the time jump and like where he is in his life and that kind of thing. So the next movie picks up on that. But I like that movie kind of makes the same choice in the sense of...
Yeah. You're right. Yeah. Doubling down is
yeah, exactly. It's not like it's picking up with the teenager or even a 20-year-old. It time jumps as well. And so it makes its own choice within that. And I don't know, that movie to me is it's so grounded in what it is and wants to be that I kind of admire it for that. There's something, because it's still picking up threads from the previous two movies.
The way that the first three films work as one coherent story is almost unmatched in sequel cinema. Let's not beat about the bush.
Yes, exactly. I agree completely.
There are fewer inconsistencies between these three movies than there are between most part
The biggest problem
2s.
you have within the movies is that the time for the character himself has been 25 to 30 years at least. Yeah. But the time in the world has been the 5 years that it's been in the time that they made the movies.
That's classic. Like, this is...
But that's right up there with, Karate Kids. Yeah.
Yeah. Why? Again, like why? Why? What we've talked about why sequels don't do certain things. Also, why do sequels, even good sequels that avoid a lot of pitfalls, still make the same pitfalls?
Yeah.
Making themselves science fiction.
But this makes more
by
sense.
not keeping track of their timelines.
Well, but this makes more sense than Karate Kid does. Because in Karate Kid, you have a 30-year-old still playing an 18 or 17-year-old. In these movies, the one thing, all these movies' mistakes is that they can't predict what the future's going to look like. So they just keep the world as it is.
Luckily, they were dead on.
Yeah, right. So
they were sort of like it's interesting when you think about Omen 2 takes place in Reagan's America.
Yeah.
Even though it didn't know what that was going to be like, and yet it's exactly
what it
turned out to be.
Yeah.
Almost eerily so. And
so
the final and I guess the final conflict is already has space stuff in it, so might as well be science fiction.
Yeah.
I respect what you're saying. In the end, I think in terms of ranking,
I think what I'm saying is I think you're probably right, but
yeah.
But for my viewing pleasure, like that movie just yeah, exactly. Objectively, I think it might be better, but this one just struck a chord.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, objectively, I think it's a better told story, and I think there are some storytelling problems in the final conflict.
Yeah, okay.
But everything you say about just how both bizarre and applied that bizarreness is.
Yeah, exactly.
Is absolutely the case.
Yeah. Well, that leaves this outlier. Obviously, Omen 4 goes to the bottom of our lists, but what are we talking about? Country Mile? How far away is it from your second?
Not as far as you would think. Far enough, though.
Yeah. Okay. I feel the same.
I mean,
I don't think it's as far as it would be for most people who watch it. But it is far enough.
Yeah, and what I like about this movie is, and interestingly, it's kind of funny that without knowing it, I've already made this point, which is that the 2 and 3 don't really have inversions. They're just all about kind of hunkering down and doing the same material to a different degree.
But of course, there's the biggest inversion in the series.
Yeah, gender swapping. There's another generation. It's a girl.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's the father who believes everything and the mother who's the skeptic.
Correct. Yeah.
Which makes more dramatic sense.
Yes.
Because in reality, mothers are attached to their sons, fathers are attached to their daughters. Fathers will believe whatever their daughters tell them, mothers will believe whatever their sons tell them. So biologically, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
And what you don't have in this film, which I think endlessly fascinating, we've reintroduced the contradiction between faith and science.
Yeah.
Like it's religious extremism in this film is shown for what it is.
Yeah, right.
And in the previous 2 movies, it's seen as Christ working through people. As opposed to, people who are mentally unstable and megalomaniacal.
Yeah.
And, in its own way, this movie shows a rich mosaic of 90s faith in America.
Mm-hmm.
Everything from the snake handlers,
yes,
to new age hippies.
Yeah, right.
There's this spectrum of spirituality which was just absent in the other films.
I was really surprised when that scene came up with the snakes. I mean, we'll get into it.
Yeah.
But I thought that was really interesting. I mean, you described it pretty...
It's definitely It's a different take on the same material.
Yeah, right.
Which is what you want from a sequel.
Yeah.
And otherwise, it's abysmal.
See,
everything else is a fucking joke.
I think, because I kept putting myself in the place of trying to watch that movie on television. And I remember I kept thinking, if this was like the Sunday night movie, I would think it's pretty good for that type of movie. You know what I mean? I don't know. There was something I kept going back to my childhood, and if I really loved the Omen series or something like that, and this movie came on, and I knew it was supposed to be inferior, but I gave it a shot, I think I would have been pleasantly surprised by this movie. I think this movie has some atmosphere. I think this movie lets you sit in it a little bit with the relationship between the mother and the daughter and its deterioration. And so, I liked that in that movie.
Yeah, there you go. I was just confirming that it was actually both Canadian and made for television. And it is both those things.
I knew it was made for television. I didn't know it was Canada.
You can tell from the dad's haircut it's from Canada. You just know. Sometimes you just know.
That's great.
Yeah, that really... I had it in the back of my mind this was a theatrical release.
What, for?
Against all evidence to the contrary. And now I'm wondering if that changes things for me, because you're absolutely right.
Right? Come on.
This is a glorious TV movie.
Yeah.
This is Lifetime Plus.
Yeah. Got him.
Damn it. Well, it's still the bottom. Doesn't change that.
I agree. But now you're wavering, right? Good, bad?
Despite the presence of Lifeguard from Wise Guy. It's not going to save it, I'm afraid.
All right, good, bad.
Where do we start?
Where would you like to start?
Well, let's just
start with 2.
Yeah.
Let's go in order.
Yeah, I think it's a good movie. It's a good, flawed movie.
I do too.
It's good enough to be good, not terribly good.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, it's got that Superman 2. There's something going on behind the scenes that you can't quite figure out, but it's affecting what I'm seeing kind of feel to it. You know what I mean? It's got that. And I think there are some missteps here and there, but I mean, it's a solid enough movie, and it's such an enjoyable watch.
Yeah.
And almost the cast alone kind of make it a good movie.
Yeah,
I think when the cast is that good, the material has to work against them for it to be bad.
I don't think I even realized that William Holden was in this movie until I turned it on, until I watched it for the purposes of this podcast.
Must have been
I thought that's a big get.
Well, it must have been huge for a sequel to be able to retain the star quality of the cast.
Yeah, right.
Of an original movie. I mean, it's got to be one of the first few times they've been able to do that.
In which everybody was killed off.
Yeah, Charlton Heston in one scene split over the movie aside.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a... I don't know. It's a good Sunday afternoon film.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, I'll leave it there for now, because we're going to talk about it in detail. It's definitely good. I don't have any doubts in my mind that I don't think it's bad, but it's flawed.
Okay. I think it's good.
Yeah.
I like that movie.
Yeah. It's nice. It's there's something, I don't know, maybe this is showing my age, but I get unnaturally excited about movies that are quite good these days.
There's so few of them.
There's something satisfying about like because you know the as you said at the beginning of the episode, the production is elevated, but the horror is like pure schlock.
Yeah.
Like the storyline and everything. So you don't have to think too hard.
Right.
But it looks beautiful.
Oh yeah, there's some great shit.
There's something kind of, I don't know, it satisfies me in a way that, you know, when I was younger, I was looking for the edgiest kind of films that took risks, and now I like films that don't take risks. Presumed Innocent is like my speed now, you know. It's that kind of like, I just want to sit and watch a courtroom. Let me get Rusty Savage drama. Yeah. When I was a kid, I was like bored by courtroom dramas, and now I'm like, oh, I just want to sit and watch Witness for the Prosecution or something that will, yeah, just like, and this is one of those films, and you know, it's comfortable. It's a very comfortable. Everything about it is comfortable, which again is counterintuitive to the kind of film that they're making. But
right,
The Omen's like that too. It's refined to its own detriment. Except it's not a detriment because you're not watching it to be scared. You're watching it to kind of relax and unwind. Anyway, I've said too much. This isn't about my changing tastes and habits.
Excellent.
But that's why I think it's like a solid piece of craftsmanship that I can look at and respect.
God forbid. Go ahead.
No, you take the lead. This is your girlfriend.
Well, I have hot takes. I won't skip ahead though. I'm going to say The Final Conflict. Later renamed The Omen 3 Final Conflict. The Final Conflict is a good movie. I think there's enough interesting shit going on in this movie, this batshit movie, for me to call it good.
You just brought up something I hadn't even thought about. They take the off.
Yeah.
Each time they take the off Omen.
Yeah.
In the sequels.
Yeah.
Why do they keep monkeying around?
I don't know.
What is gained? It's like, no, it can't be there anymore. Why? Too many people know it as the Omen. What is your point here? I'm prevaricating because I don't know. I don't know what to do. Never known what to do with this film.
No?
I've never watched it once and known exactly what I thought about it.
I'm endlessly fascinated by this movie.
But I like it. I always enjoy it.
Uh-huh.
I think it's stupid.
Oh, yeah.
It ends stupidly.
Yeah, but gloriously.
I don't think it's that glorious. Anyway, well, the literal definition of glorious, yes.
On, yeah.
This literally could be the sound Gloria attached to it, yeah.
Right.
Fuck. Yeah, there's one hovering figure in my eye line, my mental eye line right now, that's telling me that this is a good film, and it's Mr. Sam Neill.
Nice.
It's a good film.
And he doesn't even like his performance.
Well, I've got a lot to say about that. I mean, this is part of the reason I like it so much is because it reminds me so much of his screen test for James Bond. Which, if you have not seen, by the way...
I have not.
Oh, there was a wrong call made.
Ooh.
at one point.
What era are we talking about instead of
Dalton? Oh no, well it's not. No. I just mean. Anyway,
All right.
that's not what we're talking about. God, I don't know.
You said it's good. You do know. You decided. Quiet.
No, but you're trying to enroll me in your satanic cult. I feel like I've said better movies are bad than this.
That might be true, but
I need you're the devil on my shoulder. I need an angel on the other side.
Oh, no, there's no devils. I mean, there's no
like
angels.
Like Matt Aldrich, who's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?
Exactly.
Why are you even watching Omen 3?
I like that
wasting your life."
That the angel on your shoulder says, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
All right, we'll call it good.
Yes.
Until I balk under the pressure of my own conscience.
All right, what about Omen 4?
It's not good. It's not good. I'm officially calling it bad.
I kind of want to call it good.
What? Why are you on the line about this?
I don't know.
How could you be? You make a good point. You make a good point now that I really, I was thrown when you said Canadian made for television.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't say that, but when I confirmed that's what
right.
it was, because to let you into a little secret, I had that written as a critique.
Oh, that it looks like that?
I said, this is too much like a Canadian made-for-TV version of the Omen. Which is exactly what it is. So can you hold it against it? Yeah, it's not operating at full capacity.
No, but that's one of the things I like about it.
Even for a Canadian made-for-TV movie, I don't think it's working at full capacity.
Clearly not, but it so
there's
far surpassed everything I thought I was going to get.
Ugh. I don't want this. Here's the bind I'm in. I want you to say it's a good movie. That would make me happy. But I don't want to say it's a good movie.
That's fine. Just so you know, I'm struggling. It's not like definitive.
I'm not struggling.
I know in my heart of hearts that this probably is not a good movie, but I want to give this movie the benefit of every possible doubt. Because it's a Canadian made-for-TV fucking sequel to the Omen series.
Yeah.
And I think it climbs that hill admirably. That unenviable task. I think it does the most it possibly can with. So I, sir, am going to say good movie. My kindness knows no bounds.
I'm flabbergasted.
Thank you.
I really did not see this coming.
I know. I didn't think you would.
I didn't even think you'd go as easy as you did on The Final Conflict. There's some major screenwriting problems in that film.
Oh yeah.
Wow. No, I think I'm gonna still say bad. I think there's a lot to recommend this film, and context is everything. But I think there's a level of directorial ineptitude that I can't get past. I would be doing it a disservice if I said it was a good movie.
I get it.
Just handling. There's the handling of really simple stuff is so badly done. I can't look past that.
Yeah.
You got a scene with two nuns walking through a door. You should be able to get that right if you're calling yourself a director. And they find every possible way to fuck up that setup. Yeah, no, it's a bad. A noble failure.
Okay.
Which, ironically, is probably the most conceptually sophisticated of all these films. That's the real kicker for me.
Oh, that's great. All right. Well, we did it. We've ranked and declared.
I really didn't think you, having never seen these films before, and me being emotionally attached to them, that this would end
Would be the
with
outcome.
you liking these films more than I do.
I know.
Amazing.
I'm going
This
3,
is why
2,
people
4.
are still tuning in.
I'm going 3, 2, 4. You're going 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
You're saying 2's good, 3's barely good, 4's bad.
Yeah, that sounds right. Now you say it like that.
And I'm saying good.
Saying, well done, everyone. Everyone gave their A game.
Yes. I'm giving
I guess I said in Gerard, I guess this is his A game. I mean, I can't argue against that.
Completely and totally handing out participation trophies for these movies.
Have we ever given have we ever given a ranking out of pity before?
No, I don't think so.
This is as close as we've ever got.
This is as close as we've gotten.
I feel like if I knew that was going to be part of our criteria, then Terminator Genesis might have
Genesis
gone
wise
over the line. Genesis wise, yes.
Yeah. All right. Who knows?
You continue to surprise and impress me.
Fantastic.
I feel, you know what, I feel the worst part is I feel lazy now. I feel like I haven't done my job. I haven't thought enough about this. You know what it takes for me to leave a podcast thinking I didn't think enough about my feelings about these films.
That's great.
It takes a lot.
You're welcome.
Because they hang around in my head all day long, even when I'm supposed to be doing other things.
There you go.
In fact, especially when I'm supposed to be doing other things.
Off to therapy with you.
Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. We've ranked and declared, and when you hear us next, we, of course, will be talking Damien, Omen 2. Really. Yeah, I had to think about what words I had to say and cut out before I...
We'll have to talk... Well, when we get there, we'll have to talk about the title.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There's some strange...
There's some nonsense going on.
Rearrangement going on there.
All right. And if not yet, please sign up for our Patreon. You sign up for our Patreon, you get bonus episodes. By the time you hear this, there could be 2 to 4.
Yeah.
Who's to say? Certainly you'll be able to hear about Superman the movie, 1978, and Man of Steel, 2013. So, sounds worth $10 to me.
Oh, yeah.
All right. For Tom Stewart of Lonesome Whistle Productions, Michael Shantz here of the How Dare You Awards. So long, everyone. Hit 'em, Tom.
Sister, did we hire 2 clowns to perform? Why are there so many clowns in Omen 4?
Because it's good.
Did they just rent them for the whole production and had to use them?
It's good. We got some extra clown makeup. Let's put some more clowns in there. I tell you what,
it puts pay to Othen and Giron saying that they clowned up the sound effects for Halloween 5.
Can I ask you a question? Do you like beer? I like beer. It's required by law that you like beer when you're living in San Diego, California, but even I can get confused and dizzied by the amount of choices that you can see at your local beer store. What's a person to do? I'll tell you what you do. You'll watch the Vegas Beer Guys, a live show on Instagram and Facebook, and they will set you right as to what beers you should have in your life or should not have in your life. The Vegas Beer Guys are brought to you by Dan Aker, the beer professional, and Stephen Weiss, self-proclaimed beer novice. They'll drink beers for you,